Hey guys, Caroline Ferguson with Grateful and Company. One of the things that Grateful and Company has done that I am ridiculously grateful for is the platform that it's built for people to be willing to share their truths and their stories, specifically their mental health stories and experiences and just different things that they've gone through personally. One of my really great friends, Chelsea, came to me a week ago and asked if she could use our platform to share her story with us. To say that I was humbled would be an understatement. Chelsea's story is gonna rock your world. Let's take a listen. This is Chelsea, y'all. So, who is the Chelsea that people know?
Court furniture. I get up and I put a good face on every day, super happy. Makeup, dresses. I try to be conservative, cover my tattoos. I feel like that's kind of what's helped me be successful. It's just because that's, the environment that I'm in. And so trying to fit into that and work with that. But that's not who I would say is like day in and day out who my friends and relatives know me as.
Who is that?
So I'm from a really small town and I kind of feel like the underdog. I've hardly traveled anywhere, and coming to the city was such a big culture change for me. And like I said, just from a small town where everybody knows everybody and nobody really goes anywhere. And the biggest thing you do is you get married and you get pregnant. And so this was fighting against that and just kind of, I have a lot of interesting hobbies. Like I like to longboard.
Which is so cool.
I actually used to work in a skate shop.
What?
I used to work at Zoomies and I could build the skateboards, and just that kind of different kind of relaxed crowd, gets a lot of tattoos, has a lot of piercings, which I used to have quite a few of. Just that like rougher type of people, I guess. And so that's who everybody doesn't really get to see. And that's who I kind of put back when I, go to work and I go to social events, or I go out to see like those different types of friends.
Yeah.
And that's been interesting. It's been kind of hard finding friends of that in this, in Houston. I haven't been able to find much of that, of just that, I guess, kind of crowd. Everybody's, like I said, that kind of higher end and
seemingly put together, right?
Seemingly put together, exactly. And so I feel like we're all kind of like seemingly put together.
But the truth is sometimes so different when you pull back the curtain. So tell me, over the last couple of months, what has changed for you?
I think the biggest change, so I actually really started to notice, not that my motivation wasn't there, but I was just so physically exhausted that I couldn't function. And I just started to sleep so much. Like I've always loved napping and sleeping, but this was different. This was like, I would go to work and I would be so sick after work, I couldn't even watch TV. And so I was sleeping for hours and I'd wake up and go back to sleep. And so I got really concerned. I was like, okay, maybe this is a health thing. Maybe my thyroid's messed up. Or I was like, well, in the past, I have had, mental health issues, but I was like, no, my father passed away 2 years ago and I'm fine. I'm happy. I have an amazing man in my life. I have an amazing job. We just got a good house. So everything like is lining up, isn't perfect. And so I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. And that definitely was not the case.
What was the shift? What happened?
It's so hard. I think I just woke up and in my gut, I was like, something is wrong. And I've been here before. About 5 or 6 years ago, I've been here before where I had this gut feeling and I was like, something is wrong. I just need help. And last time, it was physical. Like you could see that I was underweight and I was, not healthy, but this was so different. And so I really reached out to 2 different doctors and a psychiatrist, and that was actually a really difficult process for me because it was so hard to get help. I probably had over 10 phone calls, and contacting my insurance, making sure they're reaching out, just even getting an appointment too. I called so many different psychiatrists and physicians, and the appointments were booked, which I understand, but it's like,
Why
I'm
is it
trying
that
to,
difficult?
yeah, I'm trying to get some help. And
Right.
so that's basically really when everything, I was just like, I don't feel like myself, and I'm sleeping. And so I guess that's like where you could say everything shifted. Like I said, 2 years ago, my dad passed away, and I felt like I've confronted that grief really well.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, is it that? But, it wasn't. So, yeah, that's kind of where I noticed that happening.
So what did you learn? So you took this huge step that so many people don't do. So many people are so content staying behind that curtain that we talked about a little while ago, staying behind this seemingly normal, put together curtain, and so few actually pull it back. And we don't always pull it back to share what's behind it with the rest of the world, but even for ourselves to acknowledge, like, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Like, there's something actually going on here. So if you don't mind me asking, Chelsea, because this is such a huge step that you've taken. What did you learn?
So basically, what I found out was actually really upsetting. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with anorexia, and I beat that over a 2-year process. I've always had like really extreme body issues, like what girl doesn't? But I went through a lot of turmoil and just so much struggle of, why is life so hard? And I remember years ago, my therapist saying, life shouldn't be this hard. And so, of course, I beat it. I got a lot of help. This is where I was saying, like, I was physically ill, so it was easier to, tell.
Right.
Well, I found out that I'm manic bipolar, and on a lower level, but she said something to me that really blew my mind. She's like, I think that this was a diagnosis that was missed years ago when you went in. I was like, what do you mean? She was
Wow.
like, I think that this was the underlying through everything. And I was like, so you're saying that, maybe if this was fixed or helped, maybe I, might not have gone through that. And she's like, it's possible. And
Wow.
so that hurt me so much, because it's just like, I've always been this way. I've always been really, really happy and then really, really tired. And that's how I saw my father run too. When I actually reflected back on that, he would go to work, be this crazy salesman, and come home and just pass out. So that's the example that I had. I was like, okay,
This is normal.
yeah, that's normal. And luckily she was like, well, you're not depressive, so I'm not really up and I'm not really down, but she's just like, you're too high. And I was like, well, you would think that that's a good thing,
Right.
but she's like, well, that's why you're so physically exhausted. And so the biggest part about all this was I was concerned about being medicated. And, I was on a mood stabilizer back when I was younger through everything. And I actually took myself off because I felt like Eeyore. Felt like I couldn't function.
I hear that a lot. That kind of medication causes that.
Yeah, it just flattened me out. I was like, I'm not myself. And so I brought that to her attention. She's like, well, that's the second option we could treat this. She's like, we could put you on another one that's kind of like a depression medication, but it just won't let you go as low. You'll still have your highs, but it won't let you go as low. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And I was super honest with her, because I was like, I really depend on the mania.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like a machine sometimes at work. I'm able to just do so much, do it so fast. And so it's kind of shameful to admit, but that's how I produce. And so I was so concerned about, how am I going to be in day and day out? How am I going to be able to produce for work?
Well, for sure. Absolutely.
And so she's like, yes, it'll be fine. And I've actually noticed, like I said, that was my biggest fear. And so
Right.
Leaving the doctor's office, the psychiatrist's office was, I had kind of had a feeling, like I said, I felt like that innate need that I needed help.
Yeah.
But leaving there was just like, wow, this is so real.
Yeah.
It was, it confirmed. It was really hurtful. I actually want to take a step back because I forgot to mention something. So, before, like I said, I thought it was my health. And so I went to a physician. And I'd had a really rough day with work. There was like an issue that wasn't my fault, so I was going 100 miles an hour. And I'd seen this physician for 30 minutes, and he's like, I think you're bipolar. And I was just like, I hadn't even considered this at all.
Wow.
And so I was like, what are you basing this off of?
Yeah.
You know, how you can't diagnose this. And he's like, well, I think I'm right. And so this was the biggest concern out of all of this for me. You know, people who can't advocate for themselves. And so
Yeah.
I want to be really honest here. He was like, I want to medicate you short-term and long-term. He's like, I think you're really stressed out. He's like, I want to give you Xanax. And he's like, for the second part, I want to put you on Zoloft. And so
Okay.
first and second is I abuse things. Like I can't even have NyQuil in my house because I just go overboard. And so I sat there and everything had been so hard. And I was like, this is my way out. I was like, if I'm going to kill myself, this is how I'm going to do it, is I'm going to take all of this. Like I sat there and he was just talking and I wasn't hearing him. And
Yeah.
I was just sitting there, literally contemplating suicide. Like when I get this, I'm just going to, you know, and so
That's what's going to happen.
something like snapped, in which was really just like the thought of my family and everything. And, you know, my mom and my life. And I kind of voiced back at him. I was like, you don't even know me. I was like, I can't handle that kind of stuff in my house. I can't believe you just tried to prescribe that to me. And he was like, literally all he said was, oh, sorry, and scratched it off the pad.
Wow.
And then, you know, I've heard a little bit about Zoloft. It isn't, you know, it's not very good and it causes infertility. And so I left that appointment. I like ran out of there. And this was the first time hearing this. And so I'm just crying because it's such a big shock the first time.
Sure.
And I think the biggest thing that I felt was guilt and anger that like, just, is this really it, you know? And I was so mad at him. I wasn't in denial, but I was still really mad how the situation was handled. And the first thing I did was call my boyfriend and I apologized because he's been so amazing through all of this. And this roller coaster of my day in and day out life, he has been on every single up and down with me. And so that, I think, was the hardest thing to deal with. And so back to a couple days later, when I see the psychiatrist, she tells me the same thing. She's great. She explains the prescription. We talk. So then it's real, you know, and I had had this horrific experience before. And so I'm a little bit more at terms with it now because I'm like, well, I guess this is the situation. And
Yeah.
I always just thought that I just always thought that I was like, I'm happy, I'm fine, you know. And she said one thing that really kind of surprised me too. She was like, have you been on medication? I was like, no, not since I was younger. She was like, I'm so surprised. I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, you know, most people can't live years like that. The way that you're built, they
Wow.
can't make it through. And
Whoa.
that's what I just remember feeling. It's just like, I'm so tired, you know, and I just, you know, I need help. I'm like, I'm so tired, like I can't fight the fight anymore. And that was so hard for me to admit because I'm so passionate and
Yeah.
about everything and so caring, and just the fact that I couldn't fight the fight. And she was like, she even says, she's like, I'm so proud of you for being here. That's amazing. You have an amazing spouse who's been with you through all of this.
Yeah, 100%.
And so that for me was like, after I took the way of the look of being like ashamed of it, I was like, well, at least I made it through, you know.
Yeah.
I made it through. And you don't really realize, I guess, how bad it is until you really look at it. I thought, you know, my day in and day out was fine and the way I functioned was normal.
Right.
So that, and then, you know, her bringing up, one of the other things too, when she was telling me to reflect on myself of what my personality is like, she mentioned something I never even thought was like impulsivity. And like, this is gonna sound crazy, but every decision in my life nearly has been on an impulse. Like, we wanna move to Houston, heck yeah, let's go. Like literally
Yeah.
overnight, Austin and I were like, okay. And then all these tattoos that I have literally been like, why not? And,
Yeah.
and so the impulses that she really brought to my attention, like I said, I based my whole life on that. I was just like, oh my gosh. And it's so extreme to the point of, I was getting my teeth cleaned and I saw a pet store And then I just bought a $200 scratcher for my cat because I wanted to. And I was just like, okay.
He's got a super cute cat, by the way.
I was like,
super cute cat.
he deserves it.
He deserves it.
But I was like, maybe this isn't. And another thing in the appointment, of course, discussing with the nurse and verbally communicating, which was super hard. It's like I just had to lay everything out on the table. Like, you have to be open so they can help you. And so I don't have a problem sharing and stuff like that. So that was fine. But then I also took a test on the computer, which I found interesting and I appreciate because it makes things more accurate. So I took the test, they ask you a bunch of specific questions, how you feel about yourself, people view you. And I actually got a 1, there's a scale of 1 to 5 on everything. And I got a 1 in multiple things of depression, anxiety, eating disorder, which is not a surprise, and the bipolar. And I was like, look at all these things. My first thought was, look at all these things. I'm so messed up. I'm just like a little sprinkle of a bunch of messed up. And she was like, she's like, all these things just really equate to just a chemical imbalance in you. She's like, don't be ashamed. And another thing she said that I really want to make a point of is that there's so many people out there like me right now that are in the sales and the service industry that have that really like fast going personality. She's like, there's so many people out there functioning just like you and they don't know it either. And it's taken me quite a few, like 5 years or so, to think that this isn't, and so I think that's just a lot of my goal in this is like, if you think that is something might be a little wrong or you're a little concerned, just definitely go see a psychiatrist because, it couldn't hurt. And
right.
You don't have to do medication or anything at all. You can just do lifestyle changes of eating better and sleeping better.
And being aware.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of this, is even being real enough with yourself to say, maybe this isn't normal.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest thing. And one of my friends, I actually credited her a lot to it because she wanted to hang out one day at like 11 a.m. on a Saturday. I was like, because I have to sleep, I literally have to. And she was like, I don't really think the amount you're sleeping is normal. And, we've only been friends for a short time. And so I was like, it's not normal. Everybody's just known me to sleep so much. And so that having that kind of outside little nudge was actually really nice. I'm really thankful for that. And there's just so many people out there that are like, she's like, like she said, you're not depressive, that's good, and you're not high, like a lot, like a high level, like a 5. She was like, you just have a little bit of it and you're functioning on it. You're a highly functioning adult, but it's not healthy. And so that's kind of how that went. And the biggest thing leaving that appointment was just grief and questioning my decisions. I was like, has everything been an impulse? And calling. And then I had to, of course, I had to tell my boyfriend. And so the biggest out of all this, which I'm sure she's going to watch this makes it hard, is telling my mom. We're from that really small town and kind of in that area I don't feel has like really good healthcare physicians, which is kind of how I'm here anyways. And so I've struggled a lot, with eating disorder and anorexia in the past. And so it was a really difficult process because my mom, we're raised on a farm, very conservative. You're not sad or depressed or you don't have an actual issue. Sure. You just need to go be happy and do better.
Yep.
And I've lived that way, like white knuckled that for so long because kind of like what my mom thought. And I knew that she still kind of had that perspective and that she cared. She definitely cared. It's just like that phone call was so hard because
I would imagine so.
Kind of telling somebody that doesn't have like a full scope of everything. And I know she's really concerned, didn't want me on medication, and it's to the point where I have to have help, and that was something that was hard to get across to her. It's like, Mom, I have a chemical imbalance and I've lived like this for 5 years or so, and I can't live like this anymore, clearly, because my body's shutting down, and so I need help. And so that it was just, I think out of everything, that was super difficult and made me feel sad, because you always want to make your parents proud. But that's basically everything that's kind of happened these past couple months. And I kind of shut some friends out, and I wouldn't say did anything like irrational, but I really just was so like shut out. Like I closed the blinds on everyone, which is not like me. And so I reached out to them, was just like, hey, I've got a lot going on. I apologize. I'll let you know when I can. But like reflecting back on everything, I was just like, well, you know, it's been so hard. At least I have the missing piece of the puzzle, because I felt like this was wrong and I didn't know why I was stressed out about this, and there was so much that I didn't understand.
Right.
And now I feel like I have the answer. So that's a really positive thing of this, is like, I feel like now I can move forward. Like now I finally understand like what is wrong, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of a really lengthy explanation of everything that's been going on. I really wanted to tell that in depth because I feel like I said, that there's people out there that are living this way and they don't even know it. And then also, the biggest struggle to get help and advocate for yourself, because I can't imagine, this is how we end up with suicide, is because there's people that, you know, might not be able to fight the fight anymore. And I was really close to not being able to fight the fight. And it's just, there's something that's got to be fixed about that. And I really not sure how that can be, but I just really got a full picture of, wow, this is exactly how this happens. I never really realized because it's so hard to find help. And luckily I have a good support system. I'm stubborn as all get out. And so that's kind of the full scope. And that's kind of why I have you here today, because I wanted to share with friends and family, because I paint that pretty picture of, you know, like coming to the city and fitting in with that, you know, high end, all the things, and which I absolutely love and adore. And I love it all, but it's just not true and honest. And for so long, I've kind of felt like guilty about not giving that picture of what's everything is behind. And I always thought, oh, it's okay. My dad died. I'm fine. Like, And so that's really kind of why I wanted to talk to you today and share that. And
your story, Chelsea, is wildly powerful for a ton of reasons. Two really huge reasons, though, is one, you fought through getting help. Like the process, it is no joke and no surprise that the process leading up to being able to get help for so many is ridiculous. A ridiculous amount of phone calls and finding people who are available. And if you're working, trying to coordinate that with, you know, PTO or taking a vacation day or leaving work early or, God forbid, going on a lunch break. Like, getting help is not an easy thing to do. And the fact that you were just dealing with what you were dealing with internally, but also we're now facing this struggle of even trying to get the help, but you push through that. And so many people don't. And now on top of that, you know, the first physician that you meet with doesn't even like, it makes no effort to know who you are, Chelsea.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that background, that reason was he might be being paid by the pharmaceutical companies for whatever reason that he wanted to push those drugs on me. And I was just like, you hear these things, but you don't really experience it, you know? And I was just like,
well,
wow.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting.
Yeah, like you're going through this firsthand and you're feeling this. Like, I'm somebody who needs help, and this should not be as easy as just scratching something off of a list.
Yes.
You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. You don't know any of my history, and this isn't how my path to healing is supposed to look like. That's not what this is supposed to be like.
Yes.
I think firsthand, personally, I can reflect on right before I got married to my husband, Zachary. For those of you who are watching, you know who Zach is. Right before I got married to Zach, is about a week before the ceremony, I stepped into a physician's office. I was getting some medicine filled, and I've struggled with, never had a diagnosed eating disorder, but I've always struggled with
body image.
Yep, mentally, to the point where it's very unhealthy.
You walk by, I totally understand.
Right, like it's nothing that anybody could ever see physically, but it's something very mental.
And they're like, "What? You're attractive. I can't believe you think that." I'm
like, right. But they're those hidden battles that people don't see, and you know, we all deal with. But I remember going in for that doctor's appointment, And even stepping into the office to try and get this medicine that I needed was a huge feat for me. And it's a new physician, somebody that I was not planning on going back to see. It was about a week before my wedding, and I stepped on the scale, and she looked at me, not knowing anything about my body, not knowing anything about what the past 30 days had looked like. And she said, "My God, you're morbidly obese."
What?
And I remember in that moment feeling like I can take this, I can go two different ways with this. I can feel so distraught and wounded
Yes.
because you don't know me. And that's
her first assumption, and that's sad.
It is, well, it's sad because nothing was done to know me.
Yes.
There was no effort made to identify, okay, well, why is Caroline potentially overweight right now?
Yeah.
Like,
what is going on in her life to make
what
this,
is actually happening? Right. It is this isn't the answer. So that was one way that I could have gone. And then the second way being, okay.
This is it, I guess. Maybe you're right, and I needed a slap in the face, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting about that whole process is I think, especially with dealing with mental health challenges, so many people are met with that first really like kind of barrier to entry.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
the fact that I'm here right now talking to you is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think there was anything wrong with me a day ago. And the fact that you were able to overcome that with, I'm getting a second opinion.
I can't, yeah.
I'm talking to somebody else. I can't base me getting better on this.
It was so negative, and I said that, I was like, you know, what are you basing this on, and how can you qualify this, and how can you say this, and he even suggested that I take the medication for 2 weeks, and that I don't go see the psychiatrist. He's like, I know I'm right, which he was right to a point, but he was like, you don't go see the psychiatrist. So that was a big red flag for me. I was like, who doesn't suggest going and getting a second opinion? And then you know, him just being so deterrent with that, I was like, oh, well, I got to slow all of this down. And so I am thankful, and I'm not, you know, he was right to a point, but it kind of went about the wrong way. And so that actually,
100%,
yeah,
100%. And that's, so I would commend you on a ridiculously high scale because you chose to keep fighting for yourself.
that moment of sitting there when he was prescribing that, and which is something like I'm super ashamed to admit, because he wouldn't, like, when you look at my life picture, you're like I said, good house, you know, everything is the job, everything is lining up, but it was just the fact of I was so tired of fighting the fight. I wouldn't have to fight the fight anymore, and that was really, I am ashamed of, but also I'm glad that I recognized that this is this bad. I have to fix this. I have to fix this to be better, to be able to do the dreams and, you know, impact the people. So I have to fix this now. And that was kind of a motivator, like you said, the flip side of that. Of course, being ashamed, but.
Yeah, but the self-awareness and recognizing it is just so amazing because so many people don't. Post these first, you know, couple of appointments, what's been the biggest eye-opener for you after going through that?
So the biggest difference in eye-opener is, I guess, just really the difference of lifestyle in different people, and also the different mental health conditions. So I look at my condition, and I wouldn't say I'm severe. She said that I wasn't, but the first day that I took the medication was literally like I was a different person. Out of all the experiences that I've had in the world, I feel like I've done a lot of fun, crazy stuff. I've been really rebellious. To me, the wildest thing is actually this experience, the first day that I took this, and was because I didn't realize what other people live like, and I didn't realize, I guess, like what normal life can be like, and that everything is okay. Because I kind of lived every second, a single day, just like, that's just how it felt. I would literally be in traffic and be like, but it wasn't, it was just like, I'm so excited about everything and I'm so going. That's kind of how it was. And it actually was so bad that I would shake every morning. I would just start to shake, and I wasn't stressed or like, I didn't have anxiety. I was just shaking. And so the medicine, I shake a little bit, but not like I did. And like I said, so the biggest moment it was on Easter, and I was with my boyfriend Austin's family, and we're sitting in Galveston, and I'm noticing the interactions are different, and the fact of I'm like, hi, it's so good to see you, instead of like, what have you been up to? Like, that's literally,
Yeah.
I was just like, it sounds so stupid, but that's how it was. And I remember sitting down, and like the breeze is blowing, and I could hear the water, and I never noticed or felt those things before in my life ever.
Wow.
Like, I literally was so caught up in this, almost like this little tornado or like merry-go-round of just my own personal thoughts and myself, and not consumed with myself, but just not able to breathe. It literally gave me, I was just able to breathe and sit back and kind of enjoy. That was so, it makes me kind of sad, because I'm like, wow, all these extreme milestones I haven't really actually got to enjoy and feel. And so that difference was so wild to me, out of body, like, and it hasn't changed me, you know, as a person and my thoughts and my energy. It just kind of helped me take a breath and relax. And so we went through the whole day, and then Austin and I got to spend some time together after we left the family, and we hung out and we had a really good time. We played putt-putt, and I was like, wow, everything is fine. I'm not worried about anything. And I think the hardest part, kind of hearing from his side, is we were sitting in the car, and the doctor told me that I had to be monitored on this medication. She was like, this can go one of two ways. This is either going to amplify you and send you over the edge. I was like, oh, good. Or it's
great.
right. Or it's going to help you. And so it has. And we don't fight, but I don't feel like, you know, things aren't always easy, but I'm like, well, that's every relationship.
Sure.
And of course, like I said, I asked him, I was like, so how do you think everything's been today? And this makes me want to cry. He was like, I finally feel like we're on the same page, you know, after 6 years. And,
Wow.
you know, we just love each other so much that we've just fought through every single day of the roller coaster, just like me white knuckling, but, you know, you don't even realize. And him saying that, he was like, I feel like we're okay and you're okay. And he's like, I feel like that you can just breathe, and I'm not worried about you either, and that you're okay. And I was just like, the being on the same page thing, because I felt like for so long I was here, and then just like energy wise and what I want to do, and there'd be days I was tired and he was here, and so it was just like I can finally just, it was almost like freedom. It was insane. And so out of everything, that's what I'm actually really thankful for, because if I hadn't have fought to get help and like fought just to, because I know something is wrong, I wouldn't be able to have this going forward. And so that's what I'm actually excited about. And one other thing, we had our CEO and CFO come in, and typically, you know, everybody gets nervous. And of course, I mean, I was a little nervous, but in those situations, I would be like, I was just able to stand there and just breathe and just take in the situation and have conversation. I was like, and it was just insane to me. Like, there's people out there that are fortunate that live like this, you know, and I'm like, okay, I don't live like this, but now I know that I can go forward and things can be better. Like, that's what I mean by the missing puzzle piece, that this is it. Like, I can finally breathe. It's so crazy. And so, like I said, I was kind of against that, you know, medicating and stuff before. And like she said, it's just a chemical imbalance, and sometimes you need help. And that has been so hard to accept that like I do need to take that. And I'm thankful that the experience has been good.
Right.
Because, like I said, that experience, that out of body, like different person. I mean, like rose-colored sunglasses, and like I'm on a beach. It was insane. And so I'm really glad that this has kind of happened, and Austin and I being on the same page, because that's, out of everything, you know, I care about him so much, and it's been so difficult for us. I'm like, it's just, I feel so happy and grateful, actually.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me that I literally, like a week ago, was considering suicide, and then now I'm at this situation where I'm able to feel grateful. And then it's funny, because I come in and I, you know, like I can sit down and I'm like, wow, I do have so many reasons to live and be happy and just be thankful. And so that grateful part actually was really, really big for me, because if I hadn't, you know, gotten this help and gotten here, then I wouldn't be. And so it was a really interesting experience. And I really just felt like I really wanted to share that, because, you know, if this can help anyone, and just kind of getting it out helps too, makes you feel better a little bit.
Well, 100%. And there's something, I mean, Chelsea, there's something so powerful about the stories that we've been given and the experiences that we each individually really kind of have the opportunity and, for lack of a better term, privilege to go through. Because the reality is, like, you or I both, you know, we could, you know, there was always an option for you and I to not be here.
Yeah.
And because I've been there as well, like, not wanting to live anymore. And the option always existed, like, for you and I to decide that, you know, life is just too hard.
Yeah, this is done. Yeah.
Like, I want to be done. And that's a very permanent decision, and it's one that is available to all of us. And I think that the coming out of that headspace and mindset, and that path to healing and recognition of, I am so deserving of this life. Like, and what's even more amazing, you touched on this earlier, like, you have an amazing support network and you do have people that love you.
Great friends and family.
Which is so awesome, because a lot of
So
people
sure.
don't.
Yes, exactly.
Even still though, Chelsea, like, a huge part of that coming out of that headspace was you. You recognized in the midst of this chaos and hurt and confusion, like, I am deserving of life. I am worthy of being here, regardless of how much of a hot mess I am, like, because I am one too. I am deserving of this life. I am deserving of help, and I'm going to go get it for myself.
I think that was really, really difficult for years. Clearly, I avoided it, and that a lot of that came from, you know, like I said, I don't deserve all these things, and that's a little bit of that support system came from just being loved by a wonderful partner, and I was like, okay, maybe I do deserve. And then, you know, once things started to really go downhill, I was like, wow, he deserves better, and I want to be better for him. So, you know, let me go be better. And then the biggest was my dad passing away. I was looking up and I was thinking, like, of course he would be proud, but I just felt like he's like, go after this, you know, go do this, go take care of yourself, because I know you can do so much more and you're not okay. And so I, like, could kind of feel that. And I was like, okay, I have to do this. And so I'm definitely glad that I did, because like I said, that first day on that, it just, after the whole picture, after all the dust had settled, and the first day of, like, my treatment plan and going forward, I was like, oh, like, it's finally, I can finally breathe. So
I'm so grateful for your courage in this process, because that is not easy. that is wildly difficult, and so many people don't get help. I mean, having lost somebody I loved very, very, very much over a decade ago because of him choosing to not get help. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you, as an outsider looking in, how impactful I know it is for each of your family members, because you chose life. You chose to be here when so many people don't.
That was the only thing. I was talking to my district manager because I felt like I needed to let someone inside my work kind of know what was going on. I don't know, maybe from a business standpoint, or just so I could have someone on the inside, so if I did go AWOL, someone kind of knew something.
Right.
And so we were talking, we were having lunch, and I looked at him and I was like, I just don't have the will to live anymore. And you should see the look on his face. I was like, but I know that I need to get help, because my mom, you know, I know that my mom just couldn't, that would just make me feel so horrible. And my cat would be sad.
Cats would be super
so sad. And Austin, you know, the most. And I was like, you know, these people love me, and I got to do this for my family. Even if I can't find the motivation for myself right now, I need to do this for them. And internally, being grateful on that small part of what I have, even though my family unit's pretty small, that is what got me through. Because, like I said, sitting in that doctor's office and contemplating about taking all those Xanax, I just thought about, you know, Austin finding me, and I would never want to do that to him. And so it's really pushed me through.
I can't tell you the impact that decision will have on the rest of your life and the rest of the lives that are directly impacted by you and the people that love you. And I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited for you, because this is step one on this insane journey that will be insane. Like, but you know that, like, this isn't supposed to be easy. It hasn't been easy thus far.
Not at all. Oh my God.
But what I want to know, and we'll wrap things up here. What if you could offer any piece of like advice or encouragement for somebody who is at that initial phase that you were at, like not really sure, do I need to get help? Is something actually wrong? What word of advice do you have to offer somebody in that headspace?
So it was really interesting to me. I think the biggest part, if you're able to, is self-reflection, because once I got that diagnosis from the psychiatrist, I paused and I literally thought of at least 4 situations of my environment, exterior, or my body just trying to tell me. And so there's millions of things that can help you along the way. So I had an interaction with someone, heard me on the phone out in public, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're going so fast, you're manic." Just a random person telling me that. And I was so offended, but I was like, "Oh, she's just a crazy old lady," and
right.
And I've had so many situations like that I just blew off, and I was like, wow, maybe I do need to look in this. But that mind space I was in is like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm not important enough to take care and time for myself. And so listen to your body, and just the biggest thing, like I said, the napping and just the sleeping just escalated, and your emotions too, because the thing that I found, I was telling Austin this, is I found that when I'm happy, I can't be happy. For some reason, I would actually be happy, I would cry. And that was something new to me that had just recently started coming on. And I told him, I was like, this isn't feeling right. Like, I can't be happy. And I was like, is this just because of grief? Or, and so that was a big red flag. And so you'll see those little things kind of in yourself, and of course, along with maybe weight gain or weight loss and all that. But just pay attention if you can. And if you're scared, reach out, because the first person that I, of course, other than Austin, was one of my friends who struggled with mental health. And I called him and I was like, I think something is wrong. And I want to go to the doctor. And he's like, yeah, I think you should. And so hearing that outside too, people will tell you, maybe they'll be honest, and like, your good confidants will be good honest in a way, and just listen to them. And listening, I think this is the so important part. Like, you just have to sit and listen and like reflect, because I was just go, do. Oh, I'm fine. Nothing is wrong. This is just how life is. I just need to eat better, not be sad.
Right. Yeah. If it was that easy, that'd be
yes,
nice.
exactly. And it's definitely not that way. And I think that's the best thing that I could give. And I'm so thankful to be here now in this, like, I guess this is like the first week of being on the medication. And I'm so thankful, and honestly, I'm like, wow, I wish this would have been sooner, and I can't hold that. That's one thing either, is try not to hold guilt, which, like I said, I held for my relationship. And that one of my other friends told me, you don't owe everyone an explanation. And that was one hard thing for me, because I pushed a lot of people away. She's like, you don't owe everyone an explanation. And just, it's okay that you maybe need this, and it's okay that you might need help. Like, this is the future, and we can save more people and save more lives and impact if we are acknowledging, and if we are sharing. And even if you don't want to share, that's fine, but just acknowledging, because this topic, of course, was prevalent, years ago, back in the 19s, whatever. But now, I think with all the technology and stuff we have, it's just a lot more weight on us and everything, all the things we see day in and day out. Sure. And so I think that it's almost like, why wouldn't you want to have an impact on that statistic and help others? And so that's kind of like where I'm at, like, as a whole. And I'm interested to see how everything goes. This was my first work week, and so the way that it slowed me down was really interesting. I wasn't like unproductive. I was still able to do everything, but it just wasn't so like strenuous. And so I'm really looking forward to everything. It makes me very emotional talking about it, and I'm ashamed of a few things, but I'm really, really thankful, and I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really glad to be with someone who, has this awesome platform that I can share this story, because I've had a few experiences in my past where I feel like sharing my story has impacted, and that's kind of where I came to this.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just really glad, and I think everything is kind of like okay from here. I have the missing puzzle piece, so maybe go find your missing puzzle piece if you ever remotely question it. So
That's awesome advice. Listen to yourself, listen to your body, and reflection. And I think that's super powerful. And if it's okay with you, I would love to maybe follow up in a couple months and see like how's it going.
I think so. I think that would be good, just kind of like to touch base, and because I'm sure I'll encounter, because right now I feel like this is kind of like the first part of a relationship when you know you're the honeymoon, exactly. And
Yep.
so this is all, ooh, I got my missing puzzle piece and I'm happy. And so I'm interested to see, what kind of journey comes along and how I'm able to respond in life. And one thing I do want to say that I'm actually really grateful for, that Austin pointed out, that one of the biggest motivators, other than of course self-reflection, is definitely find whatever you can to be a motivator.
Yeah.
Because he brought up, we were thinking about having kids like 3 or 4 years, and that was something I thought, I was like, well, I should probably get a handle on this. And he was like, I would just be so sad if the kids were like, why is mommy always so tired? And that like broke me like a stick. And so just motivators too. And but yeah, I'm interested to see, and I'm just so glad to share, and I guess we'll see how it goes from here.
100%, 100%. And we are so grateful for you and your fight and pursuit of being okay. Because the reality is, there are certain points of our life like where we don't have to be anything other than okay.
Yeah.
And just being.
Yes.
Like being okay is enough. And like you can thrive later.
Yes. Like later.
Just be here. Be here first. So we're so grateful for you and your journey thus far. And I'm so excited to see where this will take you and for your story to impact so many people, because I have no doubt that it will. And if you are watching right now, thank you as always so much for being a part of the Grateful and Company community, for hanging out with Chelsea and I as she got really, really, really real and shared something very personal and very powerful. Something that probably some of you guys are dealing with right now. If you could take one thing from listening to a story like this, I would say it should be, don't be scared to take care of yourself. Don't be scared to ask questions. Am I really okay? Am I feeling 100%? Is this something normal to be dealing with? And if you're even on the fence about it, like, it's worth getting a second opinion.
You're worth it.
You're worth it.
Yeah.
100%.
And that sounds so cliche, but it's really true. And that's what it came down to, was me finding myself that I should.
Yeah, because you are worth it. And you guys are worth it. And Chelsea's worth it. And I'm worth it. And on that awesome note, thank you, Chelsea, for being here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be.
So grateful for you and your story and your heart. And thank you guys so much for being a part of this community. So grateful for each and every one of you for coming back and tuning in and engaging with our content. Leave Chelsea a comment of encouragement. Let her know how her story impacted you below, depending on where you're watching this. What did you think? How did it hit your heart? Because it rocked mine. And until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
Bye. Thank you.